You're listening to the CD Baby DIY Music Podcast. Hey there, well, we're back with another edition of the CD Baby DIY Music Podcast, and this is our Roundtable edition. And I have the usuals here with me. I have Chris, Robert, and Jordan. How's everyone?
Hello.
And this time I'm going to try to sound like I'm not falling asleep. So anyway, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Great.
Chris, it's your last night before you venture out on a little 2-week tour?
True. 3 almost, yeah.
Wow.
Bags are not quite packed, but
And where are you headed?
all over the West Coast, down to Arizona and back to Portland. So if you live on the West Coast, check chrisrobley.com. We might be playing in your city.
And so you heard it on the podcast. Chris
Oh,
will
yeah.
give you a free...
I'll give you a free hug.
yeah.
Free hug.
What else? Oh, yeah, I'll bring in my video camera so we can
That's
do a little
right.
vidcast.
You're working on a vidcast, so, or any idea of when you're going to have that finished?
Oh, I'm probably just going to shoot a bunch of stuff and then work on the editing later, see what I have.
So 2009,
Yeah,
2010.
probably.
That's when they have 3D videos.
Yeah, the problem might be knowing when to stop shooting, but
No.
we'll figure it out.
You gotta always keep the editing process
Yeah,
in
and you got to
mind
give
when
people
shoot.
their privacy, bathroom breaks and
That's
stuff. You don't
right.
want to just shoot all the time.
I told everyone at practice last night to get ready to be exploited. I want to film everyone's like departure from their girlfriends and wives and husbands,
Jeez.
and I expect tears.
Are there any single people on the tour?
No.
Because there's always the tantalizing make-out.
You know,
with
what
the
happens on the road stays on the road.
Well, we don't specifically have a news item this week, but there's a couple interesting articles I saw over the past couple weeks since our last podcast. One being, it was in the New York Times Weekend magazine, I think. We'll find a link for it and get it to you. But the main thing that I found interesting is that Rick Rubin was talking about how the future of the industry will probably be a subscription-based service, and the whole music industry will revolve around that, which I happen to disagree with, but that was an interesting thing out there that I saw, and also coupled with this other article I saw that was talking about how in the digital age, how even just making records has completely changed, where there's this big volume war thing. People mastering the volume on their records is loud as possible, and it's really changed the way music sounds. But both those articles together got me thinking about, are CDs really going away, or is there going to be, a reverting back to CDs just because we've gotten so used to hearing poor quality music on MP3s, and then somebody puts in a CD and you're like, oh my gosh, it sounds amazing.
It's like you're right there.
You're right there. So I thought it would be interesting, are you guys still buying CDs, or
No.
do you?
I do.
Do you?
But what I normally do is I've been known to file share occasionally. But if I really like something and I find myself returning to it, I'll go buy the CD because it sounds better, but then also the artist is making something.
I
Yeah.
haven't bought a CD in years.
Really?
I don't buy any CDs.
I hate those plastic cases.
They take up space.
I hate them.
Ugh,
They
I
just
hate 'em.
they get smashed. The wrong CD ends up in the wrong case.
See,
Yeah.
here's some of the information that I think supports my theory of people hanging onto the CD. One, I had a friend who lost his hard drive, had a crash and lost part of his music. Of course, didn't have the CDs to back it up, and those companies aren't going to go, oh, hey, your hard drive crashed. Here's 10,000 albums you bought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear.
That's one thing that I'm seeing. I've heard more people saying they're having hard drive crashes and things and losing their albums and have nothing.
That's why you sign up with Rhapsody.
That's why you
It's
sign
a
up.
subscription.
But see, the thing is, though, and why I brought up that, the whole idea of the way we listen to music has changed, is that Rhapsody, all those streaming services, the quality is just so poor.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of people that don't have either access to the internet or,
Well, I think, and I'm not really sure about this, but I know that iTunes in a couple of cases has some scenarios where you can re-download music. And I know that's a possibility. I mean, I know with like CD Baby now, when you buy a download, you can re-download it as many times as you want. So if you do lose it, if your hard drive does crash, you can go back and get it. Yeah. So that might be a possibility with.
Yeah.
But then
it's
again,
still a pain.
Yeah.
As technology improves, the MP3s or whatever file you're downloading gets closer and closer to a CD. Why not just start with the best, get the CD, and then because if you download an MP3 off of iTunes and then all of a sudden they enable it so it's higher resolution, you have to go and rebuy it.
Yeah.
So whereas if you had the CD to start with, it's there
true.
in your library.
The other thing that was interesting in that mastering article they had, and I'll put a link to that, I didn't realize how drastically things have changed from making albums like for vinyl. And it's kind of interesting to read how the whole mastering thing and trying to get more volume on records and how it actually worked and having to make the groove wider and all this stuff. It was weird stuff. But anyway, as moving into the digital realm where you don't have those limitations anymore and people are listening to music differently, especially to me, it was the instance of listening to the music in the car or just places where there's a big noise floor.
Yeah.
Even when you're listening to headphones, like on the subway or out on the street, there's this giant noise floor that you don't really realize that music that's mixed more musically, the quieter parts get lost.
Yeah.
And so everything's crunched way up to 0 decibel, on the VU meter just to make it real even. And so you're fighting that noise level. And so, people don't listen to albums at home, in a quiet room anymore. Most people listen to it in their car or on the go, and it's totally changed the way people make records.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting, and the idea that the way people listen's changed, and it seems like the quality overall of the musical experience has gone down.
Yeah.
When we have a format that's pretty much as best as you can get. It's just interesting.
But the accessibility and the quantity of music that people are able to listen to has just gone up phenomenally.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like I basically decided to stop collecting CDs because I had so many books and was like, I can only collect either books or CDs, and CDs had to go.
Yeah.
I can't collect books on my computer, really. It's not, technology is not at a point where you can do that, and I'm not sure I'd want to read all my books on a computer. But
yeah.
But since I did have the ability to just, archive tons of digital music without keeping up any space in my little room, like the quality will improve eventually. And I don't think CDs will go away. It's like any other medium. Every time there's a new medium, whether it be, the printing press or television, CDs, whatever, like you see this process, and it's almost the same with each one. It takes over, it becomes more popular, it transforms the art form in certain ways, but it never completely smashes what was there before because there's still qualities that CDs have that digital music doesn't, and vice versa.
Yeah. I am old enough to have grown up in the tape age, and people always used to talk about vinyl sounding so much better. I'm like, vinyl? You mean that big record that breaks real easy? That sounds better than tape. And I never really, I didn't have any records, or anything like that. But then when CDs came out, it was like, I couldn't believe how terrible tapes sounded.
Yeah.
And the thing going on with the digital realm right now kind of reminds me of that there was a superior format, and then just out of convenience, we've gone to an inferior format.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. I don't see a subscription thing happening just because, one, unless it was standardized by government or something, digital companies go out of business all the time. And that's another thing with downloads. Like, certain companies, you can go re-download stuff, but what happens when they go out of business? You know?
But record stores, like CD stores, go out of business all the time.
But you
like
still have your CD.
That's true.
That's my point with that, is that you don't have that download. If you can't log into your account and re-download it, it's gone.
I mean, maybe it's false security. I've been around music and musicians for long enough. I have in my head certain album names and songs and artists that I might want to listen to, and I love being able to just go to my computer and finding it and downloading it. I mean, it's, maybe illegal. Maybe I'll get thrown in the brink one of these days. But I really like that ability. Just be like, God, I would love to hear that Rolling Stones album, and just be like, oh, I'll just get it.
See, I kind of think the opposite. It's kind of cool to have to go out and search out music, but when you all of a sudden own the entire world's music collection, it's like, not interested anymore. I'll move on to something else.
The problem that I saw with the Rick Rubin solution was that it was across the board and mandatory. It seemed like he wanted to do away with options. And
isn't that how communism got started? Mandatory music subscription services.
I mean, like, it just seems like music fans are so diverse, and giving them options is there's still kids, you know, punk DIY kids that only press their music on vinyl.
Plus, I think in that article, the parts I read really seemed like this is more artist-centered, and actually, to me, that's the last thing it is. A subscription service would be
Getting a penny for every
yeah.
time
I mean,
someone...
that's more corporate-centered, where somebody who's providing the subscription is making all the money. The artists aren't getting anything, and that's also saying you would have to outlaw selling CDs from your shows. I mean, just the magnitude of what he's saying it'll be. I think there'll always be subscription services. There's people that love Rhapsody and Napster and some of those other companies that do that, but there's people that don't want that.
And do you think there's the possibility of something improving upon the MP3, something that has both like a physical and digital like manifestation?
Some sort of file you open up that has the artwork and the lyrics? Because they are doing that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like...
something that doesn't lose quality but isn't large of a file.
Yeah, but also something that, I mean, I think one of the challenges that artists do face is having material product to sell at their shows. So like something that, you know, I've seen a little bit like people selling cards or selling CDs that actually have like a link where you can go and download the album so you can put it on your MP3 player or whatever. I mean, I've even seen bands actually sell on those little USB drives their album, you know.
That's interesting. Seems like that'd be spendy to buy all those USB drives.
Yeah, totally. But I just wonder if there would be something like that where so you could go to a concert and somehow buy a tangible thing that you can bring home and then use the
there's a company that sells cards to artists, and then they're a download store, and so you sell that card to your fan at the show, and then they go home and download it from their store. I don't know if it's successful or not, but you know, I agree. There's always going to have to be some sort of physical something at the show for people to buy. You can't expect people to go home and buy it. You know.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows anything about sales, you got to get them when they're hot, and then they're just saw you play. They're going to want to buy when they get home. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
One other thing I just thought of, because I'm the resident music snob, is that if we went to an all-digital format, everyone would have access to everyone. And I think the critics, the bookers, the sort of gatekeepers to the next step in your career, they like to see that you've reached a point where you can produce and pay for 1,000 CDs, and you can afford to give hundreds of them out off the bat to get that kind of press. They want a CD. If they were getting bombarded with emails with links to all these MP3s or whatever, like,
yeah, it is
there'd be
one of those
no way to
things where
sort it
it's
out.
like you're showing that I'm serious and I've taken this to a certain level. You know, I've invested money in it, where you could literally get something online with putting very little money into it, and it could still be something cool and worthy of playing. But you know, people that are professionals that have to make choices over who's going to bring somebody into their venue and sell tickets and other things, you know, they want to know that you're serious and not just goofing off.
I think they should bring back those little CDs.
Those are cute.
Those ones that would destroy your computer when you tried to use them.
Well, just, you know, having a Walkman compared to an MP3 player, it just seems silly. Like, if you just had like a little chip or a little disc that was, you know, quarter size or something.
Maybe people start selling flash cards, the flash memory cards. And it could be full quality. You can have a little picture on there. But the other thing that got me thinking about this stuff this week was while I was working on our last episode, the one that we're going to talk about in a minute with Jen Scaturo and her I Am Jen project. While I was mixing down that episode, for those of you who haven't done a podcast yet, it takes a ton of editing to do this, and it's more of a curse than anything else.
Oh, come, Kevin.
It's fun. The final product's fun, but when you sit down with all those files, it's not. But anyway, listening to, you know, putting Jen's music in there, and, you know, it has a real nice quality to it and musical depth to it. And then when I'm done and converted into MP3, just hearing how drastically the sound changes is pretty unbelievable. And for everyone listening to the podcast, you know, on the MP3 for the first time, their ears don't necessarily pick up on that. But when you sat there for several hours listening to those songs in a high quality format and then dropping them down to MP3, it was pretty amazing. So coupled with the article about the subscriptions only services and the whole thing about how the way people listen to music has changed and the way people master CDs has changed, just got me thinking about the whole thing. So if anyone else out there has thoughts and wants to chime in, feel free to email us at info@cdbabypodcast.com. Let us know if you think we're all crazy, or if you still only buy vinyl. That's another thing. All right, well, we'll move on to discussing the last episode, and it was our interview with Jen and talking about her I Am Jen project, and it's part 2 of our discussion on using video to promote your music. What did you guys think? I thought she had a lot of great insights. How about you guys?
Yeah, it's totally amazing that, I mean, she's one of the few cases that I've heard of that is sort of managing her career almost completely from behind a computer.
Yeah, she doesn't play any shows.
Yeah, and that was the thing, that when she contacted us and I found out she was actually on CD Baby's top seller list that week, and I was like, what are you doing? She's like, nothing. I just put a couple of videos on YouTube. And I'm like, we got to have you on the show.
Good videos, though.
Yeah, good videos, but homemade videos.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that was what grabbed my attention, is that, she put a lot of thought into it, and obviously in the interview it took her like a year to finish one of them. So it wasn't like she just said, oh, I got to make some videos to promote my music, and ran out and just shot some random junk and put it on YouTube.
Right. And she probably did just as much work making connections, following up with people, getting referrals and finding out who's the right person to talk to as you would in real life.
Yeah.
She just, did it through email. And
yeah, and that's one thing. I actually talked to her for about another half hour after we stopped recording, and she really does her homework. I can tell you that. I wanted to ask her how long she actually spends emailing people, because she said that that's how she does everything, just by emailing people and finding the right people to talk to. And which actually, after she told me that, I was trying to remember. I'm like, well, what did she send me in the first place to let me know that she was out there? And so I went back and checked my email, and all she did was send a simple email asking how we went about choosing music for the show.
But she asked you a question.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of key.
Rather than saying, hey, red flag, here I am.
Yeah.
Check me out.
Well, it was very short and polite, but it just said, I was just curious how you select music for the show, and I'd be interested in having you use mine, or something like that. Just 2 sentences, and voila, she ends up with her own show. So anyway, it was just short and sweet and to the point, and it was a real contrast to a lot of emails I see artists sending, whether it be us here at CD Baby or just hear from other people in the music business. And we actually have had a little section on our resource page for a while called Email the Good, the Bad, the Ugly. And later on in this episode of the show, Robert is going to do a little DIY segment on writing good emails, because most people are not. I've gotten emails to people saying, hey, I'd love for you to use my music on the podcast. I've never listened to the podcast, and I don't know what you guys are doing, but it'd be really cool if
written
you used
in
the
all
music.
caps.
Yeah, it's like, why would I check that out? I mean, that's just giving me every reason not to.
Well, I mean, there's so many emails, too, that are just like, hey, put me on there.
Yeah,
just
and don't even sign their name.
I know. Who
are you? But that'll be later on in the show, but let's talk a little bit about the videos that she made. The one that caught my attention really was the one that she did showing the making of her CD.
Yeah,
and that was
really
the one
clever.
that I thought was really cool. I love the DIY type stuff, so anytime I can find out how somebody did something, I'm all into that. But
it really shows how she was listening to her audience, because if you're putting out an album and you're putting out a video that has a storyline, a lot of artists might just kind of be annoyed if they started getting questions as to well, how did you make those CDs?
Yeah.
It's like, well, go figure it out yourself. How do you like the music?
Yeah.
That's not what I care about. But she really took it to heart. And she's like, well, I'm getting these questions. People want to know how I make the CDs, so I'll find a way to serve them up the music and how to make the CDs at the same time. It was just really attentive on her part.
Yeah, that's one of the things with that particular video. I thought it was cool how she connected the dots with her fans that were emailing in a way that most people wouldn't think of. And it was pretty cool to hear how it came together and how she filmed it. That one seemed like it was a little easier process than the stop motion one. But that's the thing I loved. It's like, I'm sitting there taking notes. Okay, she went to this person and went to that person. I thought that was really cool. Even more so that when I got the actual CD, it made that packaging seem a whole lot more valuable.
Totally.
Than just a CD that, someone had some graphic artist do something on and, packaged normally, which those are fine too.
And that's another way, that I think that people who are marketing themselves are starting to realize too, is that, one of the sort of downsides to CDs are sort of the generic quality of them, the same plastic cases and the same size covers, and there are other options. You can make it special and unique, and that's going to make it more valuable to your fans.
Yeah, and that whole homemade DIY CD packaging seems to be getting pretty popular. There's a lot more artists doing that, and there's a lot of people that are screen printing them, where she's obviously using stamps. But yeah, there's a band I'm interviewing. I've been following along in the process of them making their record right now, and they screen print and paint all their CDs. And the last one, they used like 4 different colors. So it took them forever to make their CDs.
Are they getting a little more minimal this time?
Yeah, they're only going to use one color this time. They said they learned their lesson. But that's the funny thing with Jen. It's like her CDs have been selling like crazy here at CD Baby, and I was like, I feel bad for you. Every time you sell out, you got to sit down and stand. Your arm must be about ready to fall off. Also, with the idea of making video and just how like Jen has seen success from this, kind of brings to mind that marketing on the internet isn't necessarily like marketing in the real world. It's kind of the idea that what gets popular on the internet isn't necessarily things where people buy a bunch of advertising space, and that kind of gets earmarked as spam on the web.
Yeah.
I don't go to MySpace in order to check out the ads to see what I might want to buy.
Yeah.
And that's all you see there. And so in those kinds of situations, it just seems like a lot of those places where people try to run ads and get success for their music or create an audience, it's like, it's just noise. But you do something interesting, like a couple cool videos or who knows what, and it grabs people's attention. And then you've got instant access to everyone around the world. Internet
Marketing has already become this sort of mystic phenomena, you know, where just like everybody thinks they have the secret, and probably it's only going to get worse, you know, all the different things they can monitor, and, hits and visits and all these different numbers they'll try to give you and tell you how they'll put you at the top of search engines. And in the end, hopefully the quality content is what's going to rise to the top.
Yeah, and usually the people that have something interesting going on the web aren't the kind of people that are interested in all that stuff. They're not trying to... Most of the stuff that I find that's about marketing stuff on the internet is about search engine optimization and all that other stuff, which is good, but it's not... Or it's more about the idea of tricking people into clicking on stuff where they end up at a page and just randomly buy stuff. And I'm like...
Rather than just having a really good idea that spreads on its own because of its own merits.
Yeah, I mean, even stuff about... I've looked at stuff about promoting podcasts, and it's all about stuff that has nothing to do with getting people interested in what you're doing. It's more about getting people to accidentally click on stuff and end up at your page.
I thought it was interesting, going back to the Rick Rubin thing, how he wants to have a word of mouth department. Like, you can manufacture genuine word of mouth without it seeming like marketing.
Genuine word of mouth.
Wait, what?
Oh, did you not read that part? Columbia, or that's a
it's Columbia.
label, right? They have a word of mouth department now where it's supposed to sort of, manufacture this word of mouth. But it'll be interesting to see if it works in a way where it seems like it's not an advertisement.
Whoa.
Well, I don't know if you heard, I think it was Disney. Some little pop person that I think was one of Disney's people, they tried doing that on YouTube recently, and were getting all the success and building it up like she was just doing it out of her bedroom or whatever. And turns out she had a whole machine behind her manufacturing it. But the word got out somehow that really quick that it was all contrived. And
did it deflate then, or was it already successful?
It seemed like it did. I don't know. It was something that I would never have come on my radar either.
Was it Chocolate Rain?
No. But Chocolate Rain is a perfect example. If anyone listening out there was not swept away by the chocolate rain storm of summer of 07. You need
Search
to go
now.
to YouTube right now and type in chocolate rain. But that's a perfect example. It's just this guy doing this quirky song with a somewhat bizarre video of just him performing it. And I think last time we had a listening party here at CD Baby for Chocolate Rain, I think he was up to like 4 million views. He was just giving away his music for free. He was just some college kid somewhere who had no intention of manufacturing that, and look what it turns into. And that's kind of a prime example of you couldn't manufacture that if you wanted to.
Yeah, he was totally himself,
That's
what sold it. I mean,
well, I think that's part of what sells things on the internet. And Jen even mentioned that when I asked her for some advice at the end, she's just saying artists to be themselves, do what they do, and that's what I think sells on the internet is people get outside of what is dictated to them in mainstream culture, as far as the same gatekeepers saying this is the music you're gonna like, this is the kind of movies you're gonna like, or you see something on the internet that's totally done differently, it's off the wall, or just is not done by Hollywood or New York, Nashville, or LA, and people sometimes it just grabs their attention and they just like, something different. Thank you.
Hence the obsession with reality TV and everything, you know, which has become less and less real over the years.
Yeah. There's certain reality shows I get sucked into. Anyway.
Hi everybody, this is Robert, and this is Email, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Despite the advice our guests have given on our podcast, we've had a number of non-effective correspondences from artists looking to promote themselves on our show. And while we usually take the time to respond, not all companies have the time or patience. So we talked about it and we began to ask ourselves, what is the best way to approach, a radio station or a magazine or a record label or a podcast via email? There's no perfect answer, of course, but hopefully these tips will help you avoid the dreaded delete button. This is based on an article that is on the website. If you haven't already seen it, I'm just going to briefly go through it, but there will be a link on the podcast, and the page is still up on the website. Here are a few examples of how not to email someone in the industry. We see emails like this every day at CD Baby. Hey, Business X. I want to get my tracks on your show. Late, T-busy. Now, there's really nothing about this email that's incredibly bad. It's casual, which is good sometimes, like it's relaxed, but we really don't know who this person is or what their music is, or there's no links in the email. Like, there's really no reason for us to respond. As slightly better examples, we'll see an email like this that says, "You guys rock. If you need an interview, let us know. Check out our MySpace." And an email like that, it's a little bit better, has a little bit more information, probably has a link to their MySpace page, but it really doesn't show any knowledge of what we do or who we are. An example sort of on the other side of things is we get the too much information approach, where somebody just gives you the whole kit and caboodle. They've got photos attached. They're like, we're an experimental band from Chicago, and we played with this band, and we played this band, and my brother's uncle's cousin is in this band, and we played on this radio station. Here's our one sheet, and here's our photos. But at the same time, what it still really lacks, which is the most important thing, is a knowledge of what we do and an interest in helping us achieve our goals. And it's the same thing with, a magazine or a record label or anything else, is that you have to consider what their mission is. Their mission isn't to make your career successful, it's to make their career successful. So you have to sort of approach it from both sides. How can these people help me, and how can I help them? So I'm going to go through some points that we came up with here that involve writing, hopefully, a good email that'll get a response and avoid the dreaded delete button. Number one is, of course, know who you're emailing. Address them by name, demonstrate appreciation and understand of their role in the company they work for. Number 2, keep it brief. If you answer emails all day like us, you know that an email that spans more than a few paragraphs will immediately cause a gag reflex. Reading an email from a stranger is much different than reading a letter from a friend, so don't bother talking about the weather or your last gig. It's better to hit them hard and fast and leave them wanting more. Imagine you're an opening act. Play your 5 best numbers and get the heck off the stage, lest you make enemies instead of fans. Number 3, use links that are direct and simple. Create a simple signature in your email program, no longer than 4 lines, and include 1 or 2 of your best links. If you have your own website, use that. People who work in the music business are not fond of wading through websites to find sound clips, and neither are they fans of waiting for a MySpace page to load. So make sure the links take them straight to your music. Tip number 4. Don't use HTML or rich formatted emails. Text only. This is important. Email programs mark emails that contain code, graphics, and colorful text as spam, and your email may not even get through their spam filters. Remove any emoticons and the like from your signature. Plain and simple is just fine. Also, number 5, this might seem obvious, but never use all caps, no matter how excited you are. It is the email equivalent of yelling. Number 6, use spell check and correct grammar, or you won't be taken seriously. Number 7, include the thread of your correspondence in every email. Keep in mind that it's not uncommon for someone in the music industry to get 100 emails in a day, so always give them the benefit of what has been discussed in previous emails by including that text. Number 8, have a plan. Make sure you're prepared to follow through if they accept your offer. Number 9, be real. Don't puff yourself up. Don't put yourself down. Be kind, honest, and humble. Even if you don't get what you want, your attitude will still be remembered. Well, I can hardly leave you without giving you an example of what we think a good email to someone in the industry is. So we've composed a fictional email to a fictional magazine. This is addressed Dear John Smith. I really appreciate your article on blues in the South. My uncle was a Delta blues musician from Mississippi who rode the rails out to California in the 50s. What you said about the unrecognized greats really got to me. My uncle never recorded a song, even though he played with some of the best, like Blind Lemon Jefferson and Leadbelly. He taught me about 30 of his songs before he died, and I just finished recording them for an album called Uncle Henry's Unknown Blues. If you're interested in hearing more about my project, please let me know. Here's a link to a few of the tunes. Again, thanks for all the great work you do at Magazine X. Sincerely, Lance Smiley. And there's a Lance at unclehenry.com and a phone number.
All right, well, thanks, Robert, for doing that little segment on email. And
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Please heed his advice. You will see a lot more responses to your emails.
Yeah, we might even respond.
Yeah, we might respond. Actually, I read all the emails,
delete.
and even the people that have said, I don't listen to your show, but we use my music. I've even listened to their music too. So, but not everyone's gonna be that nice.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to get in and get out. So
What?
whatever that means. Say what it is and get out. Don't tell them your life story.
And don't
Thanks
type
for
in the
clarifying.
caps.
You're about to confuse a whole lot of musicians.
Anyway, what are we talking about? You've been listening to the CD Baby DIY Music Podcast, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, USA.
Thank you. I'll call every day.
The sun shining cherry, we're all acting merry, clinging to